Hello, guys. How are you? Trust you're well. Um, the biggest news right now is Boris Johnson. As you know, Boris Johnson, have been taken into hospital, and he's been there tonight. Going to be the second night that he's going to be in hospital. Reporters from all around the world is outside the hospital because everybody want to know how he's doing. I'm going to try to catch up with Andrew Pierce to find out, get a bit more information because people are panicking. People are wondering, who's in charge? Who's in charge? Um, who's going to make all the big decisions? If there's a war, obviously, Boris Johnson isn't around. So if there's a war, who's going to call the shots? So all these questions are being asked. What says you, Andrew?
I mean, I think our first concern, and you're right, is the Prime Minister. He's a dad. He's got a partner who's heavily pregnant, who carries Simmons, who will be absolutely worried sick. And like all Prime Ministers, he wants to lead from the front. This Prime Minister, more than any other, feels a great sense of responsibility to lead by example. Look, he's crashing down the economy. What Prime Minister does that deliberately? He's ordering us to stay at home. And he's defied his own medical advice, because if he'd done as he was told by his GPs, because I've been through this virus, he would have stayed in bed for up to 12, 14 hours a day and kicked it. Instead, he's pushed his body again and again and again, and he's now paying a price for it. But there is a chain of command in his absence, where the country is not suddenly rudderless because Boris Johnson isn't in the cabinet room making decisions. He's got an entire cabinet of men and women, very able, very capable, who can run the show. But really, the people who are running the show anyway are the medical experts, the people we see on our television quite regularly, the Chief Medical Officer, Chris Whitty, the Chief Scientific Advisor, Sir Patrick Vallance, and others. They are the ones really who are still leading our fight back against this terrible virus. And they're still in position, they're healthy, and they're getting on.
Because in the past, there has been a deputy prime minister in the past. So I'm just wondering, going forward, is there a role for deputy prime minister? What says you?
Tories have never really liked the role. Mrs. Thatcher had a deputy prime minister, Geoffrey Howe. Look what happened there. He did for her. John Major had Michael Heseltine, who was a very experienced minister. David Cameron, of course, had a deputy prime minister, Nick Clegg, but he was a Liberal Democrat, a junior part of the coalition. And the idea that he'd have ever really taken commanding instructions over a parliament dominated by the Tories is for the birds. But we do have a first Secretary of State. That's Dominic Raab, the foreign minister, the foreign secretary. But what was a bit of a game changer, he revealed in that press conference last night, he hadn't even spoken to the Prime Minister since Saturday. So I think we probably do in future need a quite clearly defined command structure so that if a Prime Minister is incapacitated, he or she is instantly replaced in big decisions by who it will be in this.
I was very surprised because when Boris fell ill, and he meant to stay isolated for 7 days. After the 7 days, he still have the symptoms of of this virus, and I thought that he would get some rest, because the way this virus works, when you get this virus, you need to get rest so that the body can recuperate. But Boris, decided that he don't want any rest. He want to keep on going in his role. And obviously, the job of a prime minister is not an easy job. But he chose to continue that role. And you got to wonder, if he have taken a rest earlier, would he be where he is today?
Just all I can base on my own experience, in the sense that when I got this virus, I went down with it on a Sunday. By the Monday or Tuesday, I felt like I'd been beaten up and woken up in a gutter. And I thought, how did I end up here? The only way I got through it was taking to my bed and sleeping. I didn't eat for 2 days. I just drank water. You feel like somebody's trodden all over your body, or even ridden a steamroller over your body. You ache in every place. You ache in parts you didn't know even existed, and those terrible headaches and sore throats. I couldn't have done it. I couldn't have picked up my pen, let alone taken life and death decisions, which is what the Prime Minister and his team are doing right now. So I just think if Boris had listened to the GPs, and gone to bed. He might not be in intensive care now, but I understand why he soldiered on. He's the Prime Minister. He's the leader. He wants to be seen to be doing a good job. I think he has been largely doing a good job. There seems to be quite a lot of consensus about that. But but I suspect the price he's paid is where he is now, and we're all wishing.
Well, thank you, Andrew. Thank you for that. Let me have a chat with let me get some feedback from Dr. Alison Pritchard. No, the first thing I want to find out is why would they take Boris to the intensive care unit? Because for them to take him there, to take up a bed, because at the moment the whole conversation around is about bed and if there's insufficient bed. The fact that they took him here, wonder what would have caused them to make that move, Doctor.
I think the important thing to stress is that we are treating every patient as an individual, and exactly the same as we would do outside of COVID. So any patient who is on a ward who we're concerned about, who can't receive the number of the multi-professional team to look after them, can't receive the continuous monitoring, will be moved to an intensive care unit where that can happen. And sometimes we do admit patients to intensive care who don't actually need any organ support at that moment in time, but need to be watched very, very closely. So the minute something changes, the team can respond immediately.
It was reported this morning that Boris needed 4 liters of oxygen. For someone who is not a doctor, they start wondering, is that something good? Is that something bad? What says you?
It's difficult to know where that was being delivered. Was that being delivered on a ward or in the intensive care unit? And obviously I can't speak specifically about the Prime Minister, but 4 litres of oxygen isn't a huge amount of oxygen in the context of the sorts of things that we deliver normally in hospital.
Okay, that's fair. That's okay. That's cool. Okay. But from one of the reports I saw earlier today as well, it says that he haven't been ventilated, but he is receiving oxygen treatment. What is the difference?
So being sedated and being put on a ventilator is the sort of extreme end of the respiratory support, the help that we can give somebody with their breathing. And sometimes we have to do that because the patients are so sick or we think that they're going to deteriorate. And of course, we don't take that decision lightly. In between that and what can be provided on a ward, there's a huge amount of variation as to what we can do. And we treat every single patient as an individual and give them the appropriate support that is required.
So what kind of treatment will he be receiving today? What kind of treatment will he be receiving today?
Difficult to answer that. It depends how he's feeling in himself. It depends how sick he is. It depends exactly what support he is being given within the intensive care unit. And everyone behaves and responds to this virus in very different ways. So it's very difficult to try and speculate on what he's doing today.
There's so many different statistics. I saw one that say there's an 80-20 chance of survival if you've been taken to the ICU department. Some say 50-50. What says you?
There's been lots of statistics circulated about lots of different things in relation to COVID. And what we have to remember is, irrespective of this pandemic or what brings you into intensive care, around 25% of patients will not survive their stay on intensive care. And obviously we know that with COVID-19, patients are responding sometimes in quite extreme ways. And so we would expect the number of people to not survive intensive care to be higher.
Well, you know what? I can only wish Boris, a swift recovery. We're praying for you. We're praying for your partner, Curry. Praying for your unborn child. And I want to see you back out there, Boris. Fit and well, fighting the good fight. We're all vowing for you.